Dricus Du Plessis is coming off of one of the best performances of his career against Sean Strickland, 50-45ing him. And even though there wasn't that much grappling in that fight, I believe that he proved in that fight that he can beat Khamzat Chimaev and maybe even finish him. So the first part, why Khamzat, why he has to be next, why Khamzat versus Dricus has to happen this year. So Khamzat, obviously he has elite wins. Robert Whittaker in the first is insane. That alone should get him a title shot, but even to get the Whittaker matchup, right? Usually to face a guy like Whittaker, you have to beat a guy like, a Mavov or a guy like Dolitzy or even a guy like Brendan Allen. I think Usman at middleweight, yes, it was short notice, but I believe that win is a better win than guys like a Brendan Allen, then beating a Dolitzy, then beating a Marvin Vettori, then beating a Jared Cannonier. I think that is a better win than most of those guys. And I believe that Khamzat against Dricus is one of the best fights you can make in 2025. I think in the meantime, you do a Mavov versus Baralho, whoever wins that, undeniable for a title shot. But getting into the past fight, Dricus versus Strickland, how that fight went. So he comfortably outstruck one of the best defensive strikers in the UFC for 5 rounds. He showed that he has some of the best cardio in the UFC. His output in that fight was absolutely insane. And I feel like when you fight guys like Strickland, Chimaev, you can't really afford to be on the back foot a ton. I get it's a little bit worse against a guy like Chimaev because Strickland isn't dangerous, but he will out-jab you, out-teep you 4 or 5 rounds, and it does usually work out if you're on the back foot. He showed kind of a willingness that he will take the lead, he will go forward, and he will not back up, he will not slow down. In the later rounds, he did slow down a little bit, but he still is going to push even if he's tired. And I believe that's a really good sign. He always has good game plans. I know people make fun of him because he kind of fights a little bit goofy, but he is a smart fighter. He does have good fight IQ. What does he have to watch out for against a guy as dangerous as Khamzat Chimaev? So I think the first round definitely will go to Khamzat Chimaev. And I know a lot of people say as long as Dricus survives, he's going to win. But I don't really agree with that. I think a big part of that is what if he gets a 10-8 round, right? If he gets a 10-8 in the first, he only needs 1 round of the next 4 to get a draw, right? It's going to be in Abu Dhabi, probably if I had to guess, and the judges will favor Khamzat. We know that for a fact. And I think, in my opinion, if it's close, they're probably going to give it to Khamzat. So he could definitely win by a decision. And Dricus, I don't know if he really has the power to put away Khamzat. I know he definitely could, especially in the later rounds, if Khamzat is exhausted. But Strickland, just like Khamzat, both of those guys have pretty good chins. And Dricus wasn't really able to hurt Strickland outside of breaking his nose, which is a big deal. But he wasn't able to wobble him in any way in the 10 rounds, where I don't really think he's going to hurt Khamzat. I get Khamzat isn't as defensively responsible as Sean Strickland, but still. He also has to watch out for the body kicks. A lot of the times, I believe he did this in the Whittaker fight, he has really nice body kicks. His kicks are actually pretty good. And he uses them to back up his opponent against the cage, and then he shoots, because he's really good at getting people down against the cage, kind of similar to Khabib in a way, where even if he doesn't get the double leg, he has one of the best double legs in the UFC. Even if he doesn't get it, he just goes to the single, and he just kind of chain wrestles until you give up your neck, something like that, and he's able to submit you or get you in a dominant position. I feel like that's what Dricus Du Plessis really has to watch out for. Obviously, the grappling, we all know that. And what should Dricus do in order to not get finished or get 10-8'd in the first? We know Dricus Du Plessis, he's a very talented grappler. I believe he's the first guy to submit Israel Adesanya. And I believe he should do what kind of Zhang Weili did in the later rounds to Tatiana Suarez. Wrestle the wrestler. It's a lot easier to shoot on someone who's moving backwards compared to forwards. Even if he's moving forwards, I still think that Khamzat could take him down. He's one of the best grapplers I've ever seen in my life in the UFC. but it's going to make it a little bit more difficult, and he's going to have to use a little bit more energy. I think that he needs to make Khamzat work. He needs to make him use as much energy as possible so that in the later rounds, he's going to be completely dead. He's going to be like a zombie. And I think when they break, if they do break, just get off as much damage as possible. He did this against Sean Strickland, where off of the break, he was able to get damage, land shots. If it goes to the ground, try to land ground and pound, even if it's from your back. Kind of what Gilbert Burns was able to do to Khamzat in their fight. And what if it goes past the first round? Again, I still think that Khamzat can win if it goes to a decision. We saw Khamzat, he did get tired in round 3 against Burns and Usman, and he did lose the second round in both of those fights. It almost looked in the Usman fight, he took the second round off, he threw nothing, and he still was gassed in the third. But he was able to push himself, and I do respect Khamzat, because I always say Dricus, he pushes like no other fighter. He's always tired, and he always pushes through. Khamzat does this as well. Usman, Burns, both of those guys were tired, and Khamzat was the one pushing more in that fight. Now, you could say Usman took it on short notice. That is true. Usman usually has better cardio than he showed. I believe he took it on 10 days' notice, if I'm not mistaken. But if it does go all 5, I do not think Khamzat has a shot to win the 4th or 5th. And maybe Dricus could get his own 10-8 in the 5th. I definitely think that that's a possibility. I think he could win, 2 rounds, maybe the 2nd or 3rd. But unless he gets a 10-8, I don't think he wins a decision at all. I don't think that his cardio is really going to hold up that well. I think his cardio is a little bit underrated. I think he could go all 5, but we have to see. I think especially if he starts shooting bad takedowns, he's really going to gas himself out. But regardless, who's more likely to be finished? I think Khamzat is more likely to get the finish. Objectively, he's the most dangerous first-round fighter, I think, ever. We've seen, even the guys he wasn't able to finish, he put Usman in so much danger in the first round. I think Dricus could get the finish, but again, it's going to be in the 4th or 5th likely when Khamzat's tired. His striking defense is non-existent. And Dricus carries power late. We saw him kind of hurt Strickland in the 4th round with the nose. Khamzat, he does have a good chin, especially at 185. I know Burns kind of dropped him a little bit. Wasn't really a drop, but still. I don't know if Dricus is going to really chin him. Maybe he gets like a TKO against the fence. I could see that, or like a ground and pound TKO. But I don't really think he's going to get the finish. Maybe a submission, but Khamzat has such good jiu-jitsu where I don't think he's going to get submitted, even though Dricus is dangerous on the ground. We saw that against Robert Whittaker, even for Dricus. He got him to the ground and was landing crazy ground and pound against Whittaker at the end of the first. But yeah, why do I think Dricus Du Plessis will win? I think there's a few reasons. I don't think that he's going to get finished in the first. It's possible. I'm not doubting Khamzat. This is still a pick'em fight, in my opinion. I don't think he gets finished in the first. I think that he has better jiu-jitsu than Whittaker, and he's the more physical fighter. I think he's more physical than Usman. Again, Whittaker, I think he has better submissions than both of those guys, in my opinion. I trust his game plan. He always comes out with a perfect game plan. Again, he's goofy. He has really good fight IQ. And I believe because of his takedown threat, Dricus probably won't let his hands go for the first 2 rounds, and I think he's just going to try to wrestle Khamzat in the first 2 rounds. And then in the later rounds, if it goes there, he's going to start letting his hands go, his body kicks. He's also really good at going to the body. We saw that against Sean Strickland, and it kind of hurt Strickland's gas tank. I know he had staff, but his gas tank was not there. Sean Strickland, that is. And we even saw that against Adesanya with the body kicks. Adesanya kind of slowed down in the 4th, and his hands kind of dropped, and that's what led to kind of the final shot that stumbled Adesanya. And I think that his physicality is something that Khamzat really hasn't seen before. He's much more physical, again, than Usman and Whittaker. This is still a close fight, but early prediction, I believe, after watching Dricus and Strickland, the rematch, I am picking Dricus to beat Khamzat Chimaev by either a 4th round TKO or a decision. I'm leaning towards a decision. But yeah, let me know who you guys have in this matchup. That is it for me. And yeah,